Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are sharing with you the ultimate guide to choosing the right cruise ship for you.
Yeah, the first thing you need to do when choosing a cruise ship is to familiarize yourself with the major players in the cruise industry and what type of cruises they do. So there are several different types of cruises, and if you're cruising from the US, which most of our audience is, there's going to be a few major players like Royal Caribbean, Princess, Carnival, Norwegian Cruise Line, Disney, Holland America, and Celebrity. And they are kind of the classic cruise, the budget-friendly cruise that are for mass markets, and they're very big cruise ships. But you do also have a lot of other cruise lines out there like Silver Sea and Seabourn, which are smaller ships. Those are going to be, 500 people or less. Viking Ocean Cruises is like this. But the other ones are more bigger, 2,000 to 3,000, even 4,000 people per ship. So the first thing you gotta do is decide what type of ship do you want to be on. You want a smaller, intimate experience, which is going to cost a lot more, or a bigger ship that's going to be budget friendly, but there's going to be a lot of people on it.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to think about your budget and what you want to get out of it. There's more, some of these lean more towards mass market fun. So try to get as many people as possible on their ships and give them a pretty good time and everybody's happy and off they go. Or you could lean more towards the luxury end of it, or even expedition cruises. So you really have to think about what you want to get out of it and how much you're willing to spend.
Yeah, now most people do opt for the budget version of this, the bigger ships, because it is a lot more budget friendly. We're talking a couple $1,000s versus maybe $8,000 to $10,000 per person. So that's going to play a big difference in what you're doing. If it's your first cruise, you may want to just stick with the budget-friendly option. And even within that category, you've got the ones that are on the cheaper end, like Carnival or MSC. Then you've got on the higher end, you've got Virgin and Princess, things like that. So there is some leeway within that budget category to go high and low also.
Absolutely. So from there, let's talk about cabins. So what kind of rooms are available on these cruise ships? And again, your budget is going to probably be the leading factor in which type of cabin you choose on these ships.
Yeah, the cheapest is going to be the interior cabin, followed up by the ocean view. Then you usually have balcony cabins and then suites. Sometimes there's a mini suite and then suites above that. Now the interior cabins are going to be a lot cheaper. We've noticed the balconies are selling nowadays for quite a bit more than the interiors. They're just not as desirable, but we find that we have a pretty good time on the interiors because there's a couple advantages they have. First of all, they're in the middle of the ship, so they don't rock as much. If you're prone to seasickness, you won't get as seasick on an interior cabin as you will on a balcony cabin, because that center of gravity is going to be just centered in the middle of the ship. And then the second thing is that there's no windows, no light getting in, so it is much darker and it can be easier to sleep. And then also there's no sun coming in, and during the summer that's a big deal for the balconies, so your room will stay cooler. The air conditioning will work better. You can get it freezing in an interior cabin. Sometimes in a balcony you can't really get the air to get down as low as you'd like.
Yeah, or you have to take away the whole feature of the balcony by pulling the curtains shut in order to get the air to come down to a decent level, and even then it stays pretty warm. So just something to think about. Also, you have to think about which side of the ship the sun's going to be on and which side of the ship you want to be on. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. The ocean view really is, you would really only get that one if the price was right, if it was close to or the same as an inside, maybe you would get an ocean view. There's really no reason though to get the ocean view. You either should get the inside or the balcony, honestly, unless it's some kind of really special occasion and you want to spring for a suite. But for the most part, you're either going to be deciding between an inside cabin and a balcony cabin for the most part.
And the balcony really does make a difference what type of cruise it is. So if it was an Alaska cruise, it does make more sense to get the balcony because you could sit out on your balcony and spot wildlife, things like that. If it's like a transatlantic cruise, there's nothing to see for 6 days. So it's like you're just seeing water, flat water, and it's not really that great of a sight. So on a cruise like that, if it's much cheaper to get an inside, we would just get an inside. So keep in mind your itinerary when you're thinking about your cabin choice, because it will make a difference in your overall experience.
Yeah, I think that's it's a huge thing, and it really does sometimes make or break your cruise experience, which type of cabin you get, on which type of cruise ship.
Next thing you need to decide is what type of itinerary you do want to do, and there's several things to choose from here. You could do the Caribbean, you could do Europe, you could do Alaska, or even some type of world cruise. Again, you could do expedition cruising. All of these have their pros and cons. The Caribbean, if you really just want to go to the beaches, that's the place to do it. They do have the best beaches, but make sure your cruise is actually going to ports with good, accessible beaches that you can get to easily. A lot of times you want to look for the ones that have a private island stop, because those are usually phenomenal. But a lot of these cruises will go to ports that don't really have great beaches that you can just walk off the ship and get to, or you have to use a tender, and it's going to take up a lot of time, and you won't get as much time at the beach. So I think it's really important when people say, oh, I'm going on a Caribbean cruise, but where are you going? Which ports is it? And have you looked to see if those ports have good beaches at them?
Yeah, I think for us, we struggle with the tender ports, because the tender ports, you have to get tickets for the tender for the most part. And you usually have to do that fairly early in the morning in order to get an early time for the tender. We don't tend to lean into that, and so we end up doing just like waiting for the open call, and then it's a whole hassle getting back. So you're having to line up to get on, having to line up to get back onto the ship, and it just seems like a hassle most of the time, and it eats up a lot of your time unless you're on an excursion with the ship. Then they have, you have a special time assigned to you. But in the Caribbean, you really don't encourage people to do excursions from the ship. For the most part, you're going to the Caribbean for the beautiful beaches, like you said. So make sure that you're choosing itineraries that have those beautiful beaches. The other thing to consider is also repositioning cruises. Transatlantic crossings or Trans-Pacific, where they're just taking a ship for the end of the season from one area to the beginning of the season in another area, and it's usually a little bit cheaper like that, and you can go from one continent to another.
Yeah, and I will say that there is one cruise line that we're going to call out here, because they do this thing with itineraries where they're changing the itineraries after you booked it and cutting out, in some cases, the very port you wanted to see, and that is NCL. They have gotten really, really bad about this. If this has happened to you recently, let us know in the comments what they cut out of your cruise. But we've just noticed it happening so much to the point where we probably won't book an NCL cruise that has an important itinerary that we wanted to go to. Like if we were doing a European cruise and we really wanted to hit one particular city, I wouldn't really trust NCL to get me to that city. And we've had this happen. It's being talked about a lot online. I see it all the time where they're canceling. It's like, well, you did this whole cruise. The cruise is named after this one port, and then you didn't even go there. So, yeah, it's pretty sad, but I would be careful about that. And then the sad thing about it is they give up some kind of excuse as to why they couldn't make it, and it really makes no sense whatsoever. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. With Alaska, you are going to get to see some amazing things in Alaska, because the thing I like about an Alaska cruise, it's not just about the ports, but the time you're in the water, you're also seeing things. The scenery is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and we did do another video here on the channel about Alaskan cruises and which ships to be on and not to be on for an Alaskan cruise, because that is really important because of the sailings up the fjords. Some ships are too big to go up the fjords, and so you can only go up the fjords if you do an excursion from the ship. They dock they kind of sit at the edge of the fjord, and then you have to get on a different ship and go on, from there get on basically one of the tender boats essentially, and go in up the fjord and back. They only go so far. Some ships can actually go into the fjords themselves, so make sure you're paying attention to that too if the Alaska one and going into the fjords is important to you.
So onboard amenities are going to be crucial to your cruise happiness, and you need to decide if dining is important to you, which ships have the best dining. So we do have some thoughts on this. Our favorite ship for dining is Virgin, and we think that by far they have some of the best food. We also love Princess, and we do like NCL as well. So if we're going to pick for dining, those are probably the three that we pick from. On the lower end of the budget, actually dollar for dollar, Carnival has some of the best food in the cruise industry because you're paying a cheaper price for Carnival, but the food is pretty much on par with the higher priced options.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they've sustained theirs because NCL has actually raised their prices and kind of dropped the quality a little bit, whereas Carnival has basically maintained their level in pricing and also maintained the level in the quality and how many different included options there are. I hate when they have so many, when these different cruise companies have these different venues to eat at, but you have to pay extra for all of them. Whereas, I already paid my money, I'm on the ship, this, should be included. I understand specialty restaurants, but just like, having to pay extra for, a sandwich or some seafood or something. I think it's nice that Carnival actually has tons of options that are included as part of your fare.
As far as entertainment goes, you need to decide if that's important to you because all the ships offer different entertainment venues and types of shows. Generally, the newer the ship, the better the venue they're going to have, so the more variety of shows they can offer to you. The older ships really only have the old classic stage, and that's all they have to work with. Now the itinerary will play a big part here too. A lot of people don't think about this, but like if you're on a transatlantic cruise, half the passengers will be from Europe, they'll be European, the other half will be from America. And so some of the acts, some of the entertainment will be from Europe, and some of the stuff will be not in English. And so that's just something that you have to think about. Also, if they're on a transatlantic, they cannot fly the entertainers on and off the ship very easily. So you're going to have the same entertainers the whole time. And so if you don't like them, you're kind of stuck. Whereas on a Caribbean cruise, they can get the entertainers on and off every single day, pretty much, and there's going to be a lot more variety if that's something that's important to you. We don't normally choose our cruises based on the entertainment, but if that's something that's super important, you do want to keep those things in mind.
Yeah, and a couple of cruise lines that excel at great shows and great entertainment, Celebrity and Disney. They put on some really spectacular shows. Celebrity and their latest cruise ships have built these incredible venues for their shows. Just to have some amazing people doing some amazing things on their ships. And of course Disney, obviously that's going to be, more Disney type shows, but their performances and the delivery is absolutely incredible. We were really blown away by the performances on the Disney ship that we were on. It was really amazing. So those are two that I think really shine as far as the entertainment is concerned on their ships.
As far as wellness and recreation goes, that's another important factor. We do like to use the thermal suites when we're on a ship, and this is not the same across all ships and across all brands. There are some brands that really shine in this area, and that's going to be, surprisingly, nobody ever has anything good to say about MSC, but their thermal suites are amazing, and their ships are amazing actually too. So if you're really in it for the thermal suite, MSC is amazing. NCL also has some really good thermal suites, and we do like the newer Princess ships, the thermal suites that they have. Carnival's thermal suites they've been kind of hit or miss for us over the years, and not really all that great. Same with Holland America. They aren't really designed for that purpose.
Yeah, and Disney too, I think because it's parents with their kids, they don't really think to do much with the thermal suites areas. There are a couple of them that are not bad at all. I wouldn't say they're terrible, but there are some that are nice on their ships, but some of them are, you could tell it's kind of an afterthought because probably not a lot of people use them. The ones we've been on, not very many people have ever been in them, so I wasn't surprised that they didn't think about it a lot. They probably decided to put that into, you know, a children's space or something else. So definitely things to think about. You know, they have some of the ships these days have some really cool stuff, like in the fitness centers they'll offer Pure Bar and, you know, Peloton cycles with the screens and subscription already in it. So a lot of really cool things that you could do. Just again, you have to think about what's important to you on this cruise, and then line those up and then find which cruise ship or which cruise company aligns with that, and then find the ship that works the best for you, of what's the most important.
Yeah, I think it's really important to figure out which demographic you're in, which type of cruise ship you should be on, and which line you want to go with, because there are definite differences. Like if you are younger and you want to be on a party ship, it's definitely going to be Carnival or Royal Caribbean. If you want sort of that mid-range, that's where NCL fills in. And then kind of the older crowd generally gravitates to Princess, and then Holland America is probably the oldest demographic on there. So if you're 20-something looking for a party, you don't really want to be going on Holland America because it is not going to be the scene there. That's going to be more Carnival or Royal Caribbean.
Yeah, and Virgin and MSC are two that we didn't mention at the very beginning, just because MSC is newer to the US market and Virgin only has a handful of ships, actually not even that many of ships, and so they don't have as many offerings. We're kind of naming more ships that have more offerings, east and west coast, because you can sail from either coast. There's several ports on each coast that you could sail from in the north and in the south, so definitely some things to keep in mind. Lots of things to think about here when you're choosing a cruise ship for your vacation. And that's really the key thing, is it's for your vacation. I mean, for somebody like us, what would you choose for us? What would you say would be the ideal cruise line for 50-year-olds, no kids or anything involved, just the two of us looking to, you know, have a nice relaxing cruise? What would be the best thing?
Yeah, the two that we definitely gravitate towards are Virgin and Princess. And Virgin because there are no kids on board. Princess because there virtually are no kids on board because everyone is a little bit older. It's all people who are generally 50 and looking for the same thing. Not a huge party scene, but there's a lot of elegance and quality food, and everything is done well. So those are the two that we would gravitate towards.
Yeah, so hopefully this complete guide was helpful for you if you're trying to pick a ship for your first cruise, or it's been a long time since you've been on a cruise and you want to jump back in. These are your options. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. If you have questions, leave those for us below in the comment section. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, and we'll see you guys next time.